I said here, in the end, it's personal, really. The fact is, we're all different, and this is why I work very much from a personalised nutrition point of view, really. In that none of us is the same. We will all react to everything differently. We will all have different genetic makeup, different personal history. So really need to take your time. And one of the things that's kind of very much recommended, which is a bit of a pain to do, and I talk to clients about this all the time, is to keep a food diary. So if you can, on a daily basis, just list down what you ate and then how that made you feel or the effects it had, it just helps to keep track of things, because we all think we can remember. But believe me, it's practically impossible. We do a lot of work. When I was studying, we did a lot of work on ourselves, basically looking at 24-hour dietary recall, and it's really impossible to remember what you had for breakfast yesterday. So if you think that, you just have to. It's better to keep it going. Sorry, or today? Did you say? So. It is trial and error, and there are foods that, will be poorly digested, increase bloating for you as an individual, increase odour, and may even cause diarrhea. But, it's trial and error, it's individual. But I would really recommend that you just get a small notebook, or, and just note down, just because it will really help you to expand the repertoire of what you're eating. How many of you really do restrict your diet? And what sort of restrictions are you placing on yourselves?
Well, I've had diverticular disease. I've had it for years. So basically, the trouble with diverticular disease, what I got is, they don't get the problem until maybe 2 days later.
Right.
When I get blockages and things like that, because the food doesn't break down enough.
Okay.
But it's basically, it's a balance of what you eat. Fruit, vegetables, a lot of vegetables. It's all personal, it is.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree.
I can eat the curry and get away with it. Some people may not, but it don't happen too often. But it's down to, it's a personal thing, and you've got to get the balance right.
Absolutely, that's the absolute. Absolutely, and as I said, I've got some cards with me, so if anybody after this, I will stick around for a while as well, if anybody wants to talk to me about their own individual circumstances, but also, if you want to email me or give me a call, then, please do, because I'm happy to have, a chat with you about individual situations as well. But it is, as you say, it's trial and error. It's literally, trying things, trying them in very small amounts to start off with, and then if you're fine with it, then start to build it up. Even things like, introducing, spinach, for example, maybe introduce it cooked, steamed to start off with, and then you can maybe try and go to get into the raw foods as you progress, really. But eating fibre to your own tolerance is absolutely key as well, because the fibre is the substance, really, that can cause the issues here, and obviously all fruit and vegetables are fibre. So a lot of people, when they think about fibre, they just they kind of think about pasta and and wholemeal bread and all of this sort of thing. But actually, you've got to think about the fruit and vegetables as well. And so, kind of, as I said, peeling them and making them into almost an easier to digest format can help with that. So. Just to move on slightly to talk about the basic principles of health, and this is something I just wanted to move away for a second from specific information in relation to stoma and bowel disease kind of thing. But I wanted to talk about the basic principles of health that I would talk to anybody about, really. So. What we all need are, and I don't know if you'll have heard this before again, but I'll do it anyway. We all need macronutrients, and the three macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. We need them in varying amounts. There are all sorts of theories out there, as you know, that high protein's better, high carbohydrates better. There's a million different diets that you could follow. But the fact is that we do need all three of them for the body to function function to its best. So in terms of protein, we're talking about things like meat, but eggs are a really good form of protein. You're also then looking at things like nuts and seeds and beans and lentils, which are, again, I know, something that is very difficult to digest and to break down. There are ways around that, and again, I will talk about that in a little while when I look at food suggestions. When we think about fat, I'm not talking there about, you know, going around eating lumps of butter and tons of cheese, but butter isn't something that you should not avoid. It actually has significant benefits, and particular benefits if you've had a stoma operation, because the lower part of the intestine will make butyrate, which is actually beneficial for the body. But because that's not there, you need to actually take the butter in itself. So it's actually of a particular benefit to you guys. But also things like, I don't know, have any of you ever used coconut oil to cook with? Coconut oil has got really good health benefits as well. And that's something that you could include as a healthy fat. The other healthy fats, of course, are the omega-3 oils, which help with inflammation. So they help to reduce inflammation, and they help with cell structure. So they help to keep the cells fluid, so they can help to support the digestive tract as well. So, so think about oily fish. So salmon, herring, sardines, mackerel, those types of fish. Probably twice a week. If you can get those into your diet twice a week, that would be great. They're really useful. Then micronutrients. Now micronutrients are all the vitamins and minerals. So you're talking about vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, all the B vitamins. And these pretty much come from fruits and vegetables. So to get a good amount, some of them come from meat products. So some of the B vitamins you can get from meat and eggs. Then you've got the minerals, so things like calcium and zinc and selenium, and I'm just trying to think of some more minerals. Iron, of course, and then again, iron can come from some red meat, not too much, but a small portion of red meat once or twice a week is a good thing to have. And then the other vitamins, the other minerals do again come from things like nuts and seeds, can help a lot with that. And again, I will talk about how to try and get them into your diet in a second. Then phytonutrients are the kind of colourful elements. So if you've got, the way that as nutritional therapists we talk to people about what to eat is to look at your plate and see if it's colourful. And the more colourful the plate, not the actual plate itself, of course, the food on it, the more colourful the food on the plate, the better it is for you, the more it's going to support your health. So, I don't know, oranges and reds and blues, and you actually, it's greens certainly, and again, I understand that there can be issues with foods like broccoli and cabbage and those sorts of foods, but if you can get small amounts in, they are very beneficial and very supportive to health. So whether you could, I don't know, cook them for a little bit longer, or try and just get small amounts in. Then the other kind of keys to health that I've listed here are organic food. Now, organic food does have additional health benefits. It is more expensive, I understand that, but particularly with fruits and vegetables, it might be something to think about in terms of it has been shown to have extra phytonutrients, particularly in that can support you, and phytonutrients are anti-inflammatory, so they help to reduce inflammation. So they're what are called antioxidants, so they help to sort of support the body. So looking to buy maybe organic fruits and vegetables can help there. Fibre, now I'm sure I've already mentioned fibre. There are two types. There's soluble, which will break down, and then there's insoluble, which is much more difficult to break down. So fruit and veg, it is soluble fibre, so it can be broken down. It's just about taking the time to make sure it's in a format and to chew it enough and to keep breaking it down. I think the difficulty is that sometimes it's the a kind of effect it has at the other end that's the problem, isn't it? In terms of gas, in terms of, you know, the aroma that goes with it. So it's kind of introducing small amounts with soluble fibre. I think insoluble fibre is useful for bulking, but it's actually much more difficult to break down because it doesn't get broken down. So it's there, so it's going to come out pretty much undigested, really, or it's going to, you know. So really think about things like oats can be helpful. They are actually soluble fibres, but they can be helpful to act as kind of almost insoluble as well. So oats can be a good option. Just again, small amounts there. Water, I've mentioned again. I think I mentioned water about 6 times throughout these slides. Exercise. Anybody exercise here? If you can even, what sort of exercise are you doing? On the bike? Walking? Brilliant. Yeah. Walking, yeah, on a bike, fantastic. Yeah, I don't know whether, you know, you can do swimming potentially. But, you know, just think about mild forms of exercise. I'm not talking about going out and running marathons, but just mild forms of exercise, and then build up, because it actually is really helpful to keep the system working. You know, exercise is not just about, you know, building muscle mass and whatever. It's about keeping our system working. It's also really good for supporting mental health, for want of a better word. So our mood, it can help to produce endorphins to help you actually feel just better about yourself and to feel better generally. And then sleep. How many people here sleep 7 to 8 hours a night?
Oh, God. I wish.
Yeah.
I wish.
No, but that, you know, I think the difficulty is as we get older that actually our sleep patterns change a lot, and the amount of sleep we have reduces. But it really is a goal to try and work through some ways of developing sleep, because again, the body regenerates when we're asleep. It's the time that the body actually can rebuild itself. So it's really useful to work. And again, there are some foods that you can eat towards bedtime, and I know that you potentially aren't wanting to eat so much towards bedtime, but there are things you can eat in the evening that can be supportive to producing serotonin, which helps to, which is a kind of sleep enhancing compound that the body produces from tryptophan in foods. So if you want any information on that, then please do contact me. But things that are particularly good are bananas and turkey. So at Christmas we all sleep well. Off the top of my head, I would need to look up the others, but those are the two that are really contain higher levels of tryptophan, which is then converted to serotonin, so it can help.
You always associate bananas with energy, don't you?
Yeah, well, I think bananas are really good for supporting sleep. Yeah, they do have potassium in them, so they're good in that way as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Don't try to eat the banana.
Okay, so I put here basic principles of dishealth, just the opposite really. So processed foods, no. So you know, and I would say this to any client. This is just not just to, you know, to people who have issues with digestive issues. So processed foods are, you know, any processed meats, anything that comes out of a packet really that's pre-made for you. I would say my kind of principle is to move more towards, as much as you can, towards making your own food. And I know it's not easy, but it's to kind of think about things that are easier to make. I have 3 young children, and I do cook every night. You know, everything that we make is from scratch, and in the beginning it's really hard to get into the routine of it. But actually, after a while, you just find things that work for you. And I make a lot of soups, I make a lot of stews, I make a lot of, you know, smoothies. I do things that actually don't take huge amounts of time, and that could be really supportive. So. Trans and hydrogenated fats are basically part of processed foods. So think about looking at labels. If you are buying any pre-packaged foods, look at labels to make sure. Many manufacturers have now taken out hydrogenated fats, but they're basically man-made fats. We were talking outside about butter and margarine has always been had hydrogenated fats in it. A lot of manufacturers, I said, have now taken the hydrogenated fats out. My view would be that butter is a natural substance, margarine is man-made. So for my money, I'd rather eat the natural any day, and so butter would be my choice every time. Sugar and artificial sweeteners. Well, I prefer sugar over artificial sweeteners myself. So rather than if you're going to have a fizzy drink, which I would never recommend, don't go for the zero types, go for the full sugar types, because sugar is not great for you, but the artificial sweeteners are looking now in the research that they're even worse. So that would be my kind of thinking on it. I have to say that I do not suggest you ever drink fizzy drinks, but that's your choice. Stress. Now, stress is massively involved with the digestive system, as I'm sure you all know. Really, this is it's almost intuitive that if you're feeling stressed, there are things that go on in your gut, and that's kind of the mind and the body work very much together, and there's something that's actually called the gut-brain axis that is highly studied in the research literature, where basically what's happening in the brain is affecting the gut, and what we're eating is affecting our brain. It works both ways. So always think about that. So if you're eating these processed foods and high sugar foods, etc., then they're going to be affecting not just your digestion, but also potentially your mood as well, and your energy and how you feel generally. So think about that as well. Again, I've put down lack of sleep as something that can affect health, and we all know that when you're not sleeping, it's really hard to get through the days. So working towards thinking of things to support sleep. I don't know if anybody here is into things like breathing exercises or meditation, but things like that are really useful to think about. And I'm not trying to be really hippie with you here, but I do meditate, because I only in the last sort of 2 years, but to try and help me to cope with relaxing at the end of the day, I just sit there silently for 10 minutes before I go to sleep, and it really helps me to sleep. So I really, if you have difficulty getting to sleep at night, I would think about something like that, or even stretching or yoga, that sort of thing. Exercise again, and then alcohol. And again, I'm not saying never to have a glass of wine, but just that it will have an impact, and so it's something that I would suggest. I should say there as well, the curries, I think, if I'm going to have a curry, I would make it at home. Yeah, I don't kind of shy away from curries, but I make my own, because actually the herbs and spices in curries are really good for you, and they're really anti-inflammatory. So cinnamon and turmeric and ginger and all of those spices are actually really anti-inflammatory and really supportive. But the difficulty is when it's cooked somewhere else, and you don't know what else is in there. When it's done by yourself, you know exactly what you're kind of putting in.